Is Nicole, can you hear me?
Yes, I do. Can you hear us?
Yes, I see you. I have a green check next to the agenda on my city iPad, so I think I'm good to go.
Yes, I see you all checked in on the voting system.
Okay, good.
Well, welcome everyone to the Tuesday.
Blake?
Here.
Carby Montgomery? Here. Obrecht? Obrecht?
I'm here.
Excellent. Russell?
Here.
Here.
Hoagie?
Here. Not paying attention.
Thank you.
All right, please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. One nation, under God,
Indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Urbandale is a national leader in character counts, endeavoring at all times to promote and model the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting tonight's meeting, we expect that all participants will act in a respectful manner consistent with these principles. Item 2 is to approve the agenda. Are we going to do motions and votes like we?
In the voting system, yes.
So I'll ask for a motion in a second.
Have a motion by Blake, second by Carberry Montgomery.
Okay, further discussion? Please vote. All right, that passes. Thank you. Item 3, presentation. We do have a very special presentation tonight on behalf of Living History Farms. I'd like to read this commendation that we have for Living History Farms on its 50th anniversary. Whereas in 1970, the first employee of Living History Farms Foundation was hired and construction of a pioneer log house began. Whereas development and renovation of buildings and exhibits on Living History Farms 500 acres has continued for 5 decades. And whereas in the last year, over 80,000 visitors from 50 states and 17 countries came to Living History Farms in Urbandale. And whereas Living History Farms has hosted Pope John Paul II, President Barack Obama, and many other elected officials, presidential cabinet members, and political candidates. And whereas Living History Farms celebrates 300 years of the agricultural heritage of Iowa and is a valued cultural asset. Now, therefore, I, Robert Andway, Mayor of the City of Urbandale, do hereby congratulate Living History Farms on its 50th anniversary and commend the leadership of Living History Farms for the museum's outstanding contributions to our community and to our region. And we just want to say, I want to recognize Ruth House is here tonight. Ruth, if you want to come up and maybe give a few words, we'd love to hear from you as well. We had a great social distancing appropriate ribbon cutting this afternoon at noon at Living History Farms. It was great to celebrate there. But Ruth, I'll just turn it over to you if you want to say a few words.
I sure do. I just want to thank the City of Urbandale for the wonderful partnership they've experienced over the last 5 decades, working together to bring history to life. We have really welcomed visitors from all over the world over the last 50 years. It totals almost 5 million visitors. And of that, 23,000 children every year come for their field trip experiences. So we're just so pleased to be reopened for the community and to continue to explore our agricultural heritage, especially as people become further and further removed from their agricultural roots. And teaching them about where their food comes from is an important part of what we do every day. So we're grateful. Thank you so much for all the support you've given us.
Great. Thank you, Ruth. Thanks again for, as I said, it's not only an asset of Urbandale, but it's a true regional asset and a cultural gem that we have right here in our city. So thank you for being in our community. Thank you for all you do, and we look forward to many more years of having living history farms here in Urbandale. So.
Here, here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ruth. And we will get you a copy of this commendation if we already have them. We'll get that. I'll have Nicole get that to you. So.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right, item 4, Citizens Forum. This is the opportunity to address the council on something that's not a part of tonight's regular agenda. First of all, let's recognize if there's anybody in the room here that wants to address the council at this time. Yes, sir. If you please come up here and please give your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Reverend Zebulon Treelor, and I live at 3927 68th Street. And my husband and I are proud to call Urbandale home, and we're thankful to live in such great community. And I come forward tonight with a proposal to make our community even better. I would like to propose the formation of a citizens review board at the police department. Review boards are all about accountability, and through having a review board, we can enhance our police department and make it even greater than it already is. So my father is a retired probation officer who has also worked as a police officer, and he served on the community review board of the Iowa City Police Department for many years. And through this work, he helped foster a stronger sense of community and trust between citizens and the police department. This came through the assurance that there would be an impartial review of complaints against the police officers, and that the police department will hold its officers to the highest standards. So prior to this meeting tonight, I have emailed each council member a proposal to create a citizen review board. And it doesn't come from me, but it comes from the document sent to the Des Moines City Council by the ACLU, CCI, and the NAACP in part of their anti-racial profiling ordinance. And I would like to now read that aloud. The city shall establish a citizens review board to review complaints of profiling, discriminatory police practices made against a law enforcement officer. And the board shall consist of the following persons. 1, a minimum of 5 residents that support advocacy for communities of color, the LGBT community, undocumented immigrants, women, the Islamic community, homeless people, and people with disabilities, and a representative from law enforcement that is not a current active police officer, such as a retired officer or member of another branch of law enforcement. Number 2, no later than 6 months following the effective date of this ordinance, the board shall adopt regulations to carry out the functions of this board pursuant to this ordinance, including the procedures and forms for people to file complaints of profiling discriminatory practices. 3, no later than 6 months following the effective date of this ordinance, the board shall develop a standard notice form to be provided when practicable to each person stopped by the law enforcement officer who makes a stop, notifying the person of the right to file a complaint with the board if the person believes that he or she has been stopped in violation of this ordinance. 4, within 90 days of receiving a complaint, the board shall review and investigate complaints of profiling or discriminatory police practices. 5, upon completion of this investigation, the board shall determine if the stop or arrest was in violation of this ordinance. 6, if the stop or arrest was in violation of this ordinance, the board shall impose disciplinary measures against the law enforcement officers who engaged in profiling or discriminatory police practice. 7, a person advocacy organization whose interests are germane to the purpose of this section, the board or the county attorney may bring an action in district court to enjoin a violation of this section or to enforce the disciplinary measure ordered by the board following the board's determination that a stop or arrest was in violation of this ordinance. 8, the findings of the board shall be admissible in any criminal or civil proceeding. And finally, 9, the board shall compile an annual report of all complaints received and investigated for profiling or discriminatory police practices and submit the report to the council by November 1st of each year, which report shall be public record accessible from the city website. So I invite you to create such a review board and to continue that already excellent work that we do in Urbandale and to make it the safest and greatest city in Iowa. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And again, just so you know, we had some correspondence with Reverend Treeler, and I appreciate your comments tonight here as well. And just so you know, we will be having a forum next Thursday evening. We have not gotten that out yet, but we will be getting details of that out yet, an open citizens forum to have further discussion on this. So appreciate it. Thank you. All right, is there anyone else like to address the council on something not a part of tonight's regular agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on now. Item 5 is the adoption of the minutes from the June 2, 2020 meeting. I'll ask for a motion in a second.
Sorry, have a motion by Pogge, second by Carberry Montgomery.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, please vote. That passes, thank you. Item 6 is the consent agenda. There are 11 items for approval.
A motion by Obrecht, second by Pogge.
Further discussion? Please vote.
Did not mean a nay there. Still even happens here.
Updated, we are correct.
All right, that passes, thank you. Item 7, public hearings versus item 7.1, the public hearing that's been continued for the Ashford Ridge Apartments rezoning from R3 low-density multifamily district to the PUD Planned Unit Development District at 3600 Patricia Drive. The applicant has asked for another motion to continue to the June 30 meeting. Before we do that, just will ask if there's anybody either here present or online that would like to speak to this item tonight. Okay, not hearing any.
Is there a limit to the number of times that they can continue it?
No, I don't think there is. As long as we approve the motion to continue, I don't think there's a limit on it, is there?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, that would be correct. As long as the council approves it, they can continue it.
Thanks.
So with that, is there a motion to continue? I'll ask for a motion in a second.
Have a motion by Russell, second by Obrecht.
Okay, further discussion? Please vote.
Again, my fingers were too fast, and I got an A.
There we go. Thank you. That passes. Item 7.2 is public hearing for the consideration of bids for the Walnut Creek Regional Park parking lot improvements. And sorry, Nicole, did you give me the? Yes, here we go. Public notice for this was published in the May 29, 2020 Des Moines Register, and ask for their objections to that notice as published.
There were none.
A motion to open the public hearing. A second.
A motion by Blake, second by Pogge.
Discussion, please vote. That passes. And then to introduce the items, our city engineer, Dave McKay. Dave?
Okay.
Give me a moment, Dave, and I will pass the control over to you.
Okay. Can you see that, Nicole?
Yes, looks great.
Okay. Okay, this is the Walnut Creek Regional Park Parking Lot Improvements Project, receiving bids. And on Wednesday, June 10th, we received bids on this project. It was a virtual bid opening, which is semi-new to us. A little concerned about the bidding climate, but ended up receiving 8 bids. So that was really good news. We are recommending that we accept a base bids and add alternate number 1 and add alternate number 2. And so the low bidder is All Star Concrete LLC, Ankeny, Iowa. Their bid was in the amount of $365,836.17. The low bid was about 100,000 or about 21.7% under the engineer's estimate. So we received very good bids. Just a little bit about the 2 add alternates we had here. The base bid was for a 50-car parking lot, and then add alternate number 1 was to add additional 25 stalls, and then add alternate number 2 was to add another 25 stalls. So I'll show you a diagram of how we did this, but this was just more or less to protect ourselves in case the bids were high, give us some different options. So besides the 100-car parking stall parking lot, the project also include the water and sewer utilities for the future shelter, which is planned for next year. I'll show you a diagram of where those are at. And then the project is scheduled to be complete on September 25th of this year. So this is just a diagram of where we're at. Okay, Walnut Creek Regional Park here. Aurora Avenue runs through the center, and our park access road runs to the south. So the little triangle here is the location we are at. Here's a diagram. This is park access road. So this is the parking lot. The gray is the base bid here. So this was the base bid. Add alternate number 1 is the first of all, base bid had 50. Add alternate number 1 had 25. Add alternate 2 had 25. Due to the cost of the bids, we're able to recommend both alternates or the entire parking lot. As far as water and sewer, north is to the left here. This is Aurora Avenue. So for water, we're putting in a 4-inch water line from Aurora all the way down to the future shelter location, which is shown in yellow right here. The sanitary sewer trunk sewer runs right through here. And so we just have a short stub to connect up to the trunk, back into the future building at this location. And then again, just the south is a parking lot. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you have.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dave. Questions for Dave from the council? Okay, hearing none. This item is a public hearing. Would anyone either here or on the line like to address the council on this item? All right, hearing none, then is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion by Carberry Montgomery, second by Pogge.
Okay, discussion, please vote. That passes. And we have 3 resolutions for approval.
The motion by Carberry Montgomery, second by Pogge.
Discussion, please vote. That passes.
The motion by Carberry Montgomery, second by Pogge to pass resolution 135-2020.
Discussion, please vote. That passes.
And a motion by Carberry Montgomery, second by Poggi for Resolution 136, 2020.
Discussion, please vote. And that passes. Thank you.
That made up for your nays.
Item 8, establish public hearing. We have one, item 8.1, for the community entrance signage project, establishing a date of July 14, 2020 for that. If there are any questions, Dave would answer any questions on that. If not, is there a motion?
Motion by Carberry Montgomery, second by Poggi.
Discussion, please vote. That passes, thank you. Item 9, planning and zoning items versus item 9.1 is the public walkway easement vacation for lot 11, Sharon Heights, plat 11 at 4721 78th Place. And this is our chief planner, Christy Bales. Christy?
Yes, this should just be questions only for this next step in the vacation process of a part of a public walkway pedestrian easement.
All right. So any questions? If not, there are 2 items for approval.
A motion by Obrecht, second by Carberry Montgomery to suspend the rules.
Discussion, please vote. That passes, thank you.
And a motion by Obrecht, second by Blake.
Discussion, please vote.
My nay should be a yay.
All right, that passes, thank you. Item 9.2 is the Urban Ridge Plat 1 final plat at 167th Street and Meredith Drive.
And give me just a moment. I'll pass the display to Christy here.
Very good. Can you see my screen?
Not yet, Christy. Can you?
Sorry. Do it this way. There we go.
Excellent. We see it now.
Very good. Thank you. The Urban Ridge Plat 1 final plat is before you this evening to kind of give you an orientation. This is the locates map. The property has frontage onto Meredith Drive, which is here, and that will be their primary initial point of access. For those of you who need a reference point, this is the clock tower at the Acadia residential subdivision. So we're on Meredith between 156 and 170th. This final plat pertains to about 20 acres. They're going to take the preliminary plat that was approved for 101 lots, split that almost in half, and ask for the initial 49 lots to be approved tonight before you. The first phase is a little over 9 acres, and I'll switch screens here for a second. This will be the layout that they're wanting to do for Urban Ridge Plat 1. And they do have the required 50-foot landscape buffer along Meredith. As part of the PUD, when it was zone changed, there was also a landscape buffer on the far east and far west sides of the project. There will be a tie-in. This Oakwood Drive will extend into the rest of the plat, and then eventually into Acadia Plat 2 Acadia Plat as that is extended. Staff is recommending approval of the development. The lots meet the minimum lot size. These are the smaller lots that we've seen kind of recently in Radiant Point and Waterford Creek South. These are all on public streets though. So they will have the 5-foot sidewalk on both sides of the street. Staff's recommending approval subject to the comments in the staff report. There were no comments or questions from the developer when this went to Planning and Zoning last week, and Planning and Zoning Commission did approve it as presented. I'll take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Christy. Any questions? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
A motion by Carberry Montgomery. Second by Pogge.
Discussion, please vote.
Oh, I apologize. I needed to take that display back.
That passes. Thank you. Item 10, regular agenda items versus item 10.1, the July 4th fireworks display and noise waiver. And Chief Holt will answer any questions if there are. Now, is there a motion?
A motion by Pogge. Second by Blake to approve the 4th of July fireworks.
Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Thank you. Item 10.2 is the 2080 agreement for the Polk County Emergency Management Agency funding. Chief?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. What's before you tonight is the renewal of the 2080 agreement with Polk County EMA. It's been in place since 2005, and typically it goes for a 3-year period, and we renew it at the end of every 3 years. It calls for no change in the funding formula, which is 50 cents per capita. However, there was a change in the estimate for the Polk County portion of Urbandale, so it's going up $63, but it's basically that's staying the same. This is a good agreement. It works well for us to have a unified approach to major disaster responses, and it's worked really well in the past, and is recommended that we continue this agreement. Be more than happy to answer any questions if there are any.
All right, thanks, Chief. Any questions? If not, is there a motion?
A motion by Carberry Montgomery. Second by Pogge.
Discussion, please vote. That passes. Thank you. Item 10.3 is the partnering with the Neighborhood Finance Corporation, and John Conyer would answer any questions if there are.
I'll just say I'm super excited about this.
This will be good.
Yeah, quick question on it is, we kind of bounced around on what future might look like. It says 70 in the memo. We've talked 75. We've talked lower numbers. Is that, I'm guessing what's in the memo is where we've settled on?
Councilmember, yes, you are correct in the fact that 70 is what NFC would be looking for the first 3 years. The 2080 that would be drafted would be for a 3-year agreement. And then after that point in time, the funding could change based on what the services and programs the NFC would look to continue within Urbandale and where you might want to go after the initial first 3-year period. Stephanie Murphy from NFC is also on the call with us tonight, and she'd be happy to expand upon that if you want some more clarification.
No, I'm good. But thank you, Stephanie, for being here.
You're welcome. We're excited.
I do have a motion by Carberry Montgomery.
Okay.
And a second by Pogge.
Further discussion? Please vote. All right, thank you. And Stephanie, we are looking forward as a city to moving forward on this, so thank you for your support on this and for being here tonight.
You're welcome, and I'll get going on it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Item 10.4 is the insurance coverage for fiscal year 2021. And again, John will answer any questions if there are. Or John, do you want to make a presentation?
Mayor, just questions if council has any.
Okay.
I'll be abstaining from this. Our firm represents 3 of these carriers, so.
Okay, thank you, Ron. If there are any questions, I'll entertain a motion in a second.
The motion by Blake, second by Russell.
Okay. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Thank you. Item 10.5 is council approval of the item enacted in the emergency proclamation. And Nicole will answer any questions if there are on this.
I had sent a question to AJ, and I guess I'd like to open it up for discussion. Is there a way that we can notify people or through the Nextdoor and the other social media when one of these permits is approved? I think people are still a little edgy about answering their door. And I think just as a courtesy, we should let people know that we've granted these permits.
I know when speaking to Derek, our communication specialist, we can see what's on the Nextdoor, but we're not, we can push that out, but we can't.
Right. But can we push out when Spidex, who's been at my door frequently the last couple of months, gets a permit, can we put it out on Nextdoor and say they've been granted a peddler's permit or whoever else? I don't know what sort of groups we grant it to.
Sure, we do post on our website. We have a spot where we post that, so I can certainly work with Derek to.
I think more people would see it if we posted it elsewhere.
Certainly. Maybe what we could do is, I'm sorry.
And to that, I guess I'd be cautious on posting business names like that because it might seem like the city is promoting that business through the process. You know, having a list of these are the peddler permits. Look here, if somebody comes to your door, is I think appropriate, and letting people know where that list is more often may be more appropriate.
That's what I was just thinking. Thanks. I was just kind of going along those lines too. Is that maybe if we have a new one, we can just do periodic reminders that a new company has applied for peddler's permit, and to see the most recent list, go to and give the link.
I would be willing to give that a try. I guess I just think it's appropriate to let people know in a more proactive way than just having it on the website for people to dig through. I don't think most people know it's there.
Along that same line, is there a way that they can have some kind of identification, a badge, or some sort of a lantern around their neck? Because I agree.
They're supposed to.
You get, well, the ones I did knocking on my door, if you specifically ask them for it, or if the resident even knows to even ask the question, do you have a peddler's license? But is there some way, and I know enforcement's probably would be difficult, or at least we could have a requirement that when you knock on somebody's door, you've got a badge with an ID and a name of your company or your permit number. Because I agree with Bridget, I've had people tell me that they're skeptical about answering the door anymore today. The Swans man is about as, as gutsy as we get around here.
They are required to have it, but I believe you are correct that it's not required to be displayed, just that they have it to produce if they are asked.
Yeah.
But we can review the current code on that.
And again, I don't know how much complaints you get about it, but I just think that's right, that in this day of age especially, someone's knocking on your door, I'd like to have some sort of identification. So residents know that at least the guy's been somewhat vetted or run through our system in the sense that they have a peddler's license.
This is just a harebrained idea from me. I didn't know that you were supposed to, speaking of Spidex, I use their services. My loss are now gone. But I will say that that's something I didn't know that to happen. Maybe it would be worthwhile to do kind of and Derek, I don't want to put more work on him than he already has, but it would be kind of interesting maybe doing an FAQ like, hey, here's something that if you didn't know, they're supposed to do this, and maybe, and again, expanding on this slightly, you don't have to take the idea, just throwing this out there, is that maybe each month you just do a random little like, hey, did you know that this is supposed to happen? Or did you know that this was something that was supposed to happen within the city? That they're supposed to have a peddler's permit if they're coming door to door. If you want to know how to contact somebody about stormwater, this is how you do it. Just a random idea, trying to build off things. Sorry, this is what happens when I show up in person. I get random things.
And not holding a baby.
And not holding a baby and not distracted. So.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Hey, very good idea. Derek, not shy away. Great idea. I think it's a good idea. Derek doesn't shy away from any of that, and I think it can be very quick burst. As did you know, we regulate peddlers, and a list is available online. Mm-hmm. Did you know that we have a stormwater grant program? Applications are available, and actually, if you'll recall in the budget, we included monies, or maybe it was after the budget, we found extra money, and we have a rain barrel program. We want to make sure that gets out there. So there are certain things that can be very quick hits. Did you know? More information, contact the appropriate department. Be happy to do that.
So do we need to amend the motion or to add an additional requirement to a peddler's license?
I don't think, David, I think that would require an ordinance change. I think all we're doing, this is only authorizing what we did under the emergency proclamation at this point. I think we're just, at this point, just talking about how we publicize things. So.
I would be open to further discussion regarding, and I don't know if it requires an ordinance change, but wearing of some sort of identification. I'm not exactly sure what that would look like, but I would be interested in pursuing that at a later date. I think getting the FYI out, like Matt suggested, is a great start, but I would like to see more heft to what we require of them before they knock on a door in terms of identification.
We can revisit that at a lunch and learn maybe and just kind of take a look at that and talk about it.
So on this resolution 133, 2020, I do have a motion by Obrecht and second by Carberry Montgomery.
Any further discussion? Please vote. That passes. Thank you. Excuse me. Item 10.6 is the Regional Small Business Relief Grant Program award approval, and I will turn this over to our Assistant City Manager and Economic Development Director, Curtis Brown. Curtis.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and council members. Appreciate it. Just a brief background here to come up to the final approval of the list tonight. Back on April 21st, the council approved participation in this regional small business grant program. And on that same night, authorized use of the contingency fund to make Urbandale's contribution of $101,970 to the grant program. Very fortunately, contributions from Polk County and from many private sector businesses around the metro ended up bringing the total amount available to Urbandale businesses to $209,383. That's significant because it ended up being over a dollar for dollar match to the city's funds. In the final analysis here, we're bringing forward a list that would award $170,575 to Urbandale businesses. And so we do expect a refund of our contribution because we didn't use the full amount. We don't know the final amount yet, but it looks like it'll be around $19,000. I know we had indicated in the memo 21, but in the final calculations, it looks like we'll be closer to 19,000 when that is all reconciled. So the grant program applications opened on May 5th. Got off to a little bit of a slow start, and so then they were extended out to May 31st. And businesses that qualified had 0 to 30 employees and had restrictions placed on their operations. That was important. They had to have a physical commercial location, have been in operation since July 1st of 19, and are a for-profit business. In the end, a total of 66 applications were received from Urbandale, and on the list that we shared with you tonight, 38 are recommended for funding. And the funding amounts are generally 100%, 88%, or 75% of the maximum award amount. And if you did notice on the list, some of those amounts that don't quite fit that, if a business requested a certain amount that was less than what their score would have merited, they were awarded up to the amount that they requested. So that's why there is some differentiation on the list there. The committee of Mayor Andewig, council members Obrecht and Pogge, and AJ Johnson, our city manager, and Aaron DeYoung from Economic Development and I reviewed those final applications. A lot of good questions came out of that. We did send many questions back to the Iowa Center for Economic Success for review, and we were able to really tighten up that final list to get to confidence on those applications. In the end, 28 applications were not recommended for approval, and the reasons for denial included a few main reasons. One, that the business was an ineligible industry in this program. For example, hotels and real estate services that did not directly have restrictions placed on them by the governor or other authorities. Second, the business wasn't in a sound financial position prior to COVID-19. Or third, the business did not have a physical commercial location. We did have some home-based businesses that we really appreciate and know that they're good businesses, but really for fairness across the program, the final decision was that there really had to be a physical commercial location. In conclusion, I would just give thanks to the Greater Des Moines Partnership, Iowa Center for Economic Success that really helped to make this happen. And certainly want to acknowledge Aaron DeYoung's contributions here in perfecting that list and chasing down a lot of the final details on this. So with that, if there are any questions or comments, we'd be happy to address them.
All right, thank you, Curtis. Any questions?
Again, there wasn't 4 more applications that we could have made work. I mean, we put this money out there, and I'm kind of, I guess, disappointed that we're not spending it all knowing the need that is out there.
Right. Well, we share that. We regrouped when the applications got off to a bit of a slow start. We had multiple communications with the business community through social media, through the partnership, amplifying our efforts. We even made a number of direct calls to ensure an application had been made or not. Surprisingly, I think perhaps some businesses got to the point where maybe they had received the PPP. They might not have wanted to even pursue another application. So we share that, and I think the important part is really making sure that we felt confident about getting the word out. But certainly, as we discussed before when this program came up, if there is a future need later this year, certainly that's always something that we could revisit here now that there is an established program and method. I think we've learned a lot through the process.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Yeah, I can say one of the things we considered doing was taking our refund and funding the home-based businesses that didn't qualify. But we decided not to do that because they, it's unfair to all those home-based who read the application and didn't submit it. And if we opened it up, we only had 19 grand coming back. It would have overwhelmed us.
Thank you.
I think in the end, this is still a successful program.
Oh, absolutely.
Or getting some real needed help out to some folks. So I appreciate everything that this came quickly together and the partnership and putting it together and be able to leverage the funds was great. And Curtis and Aaron, thank you for all your work on this as well. So with that, any further questions or discussion? If not, then I'll entertain a motion in a second.
A motion by Blake, second by Pogge.
Okay, further discussion? Please vote. That passes. Thank you. All right, that takes us to the end of our regular agenda. Mayor and council items is next. David, you're up first.
I just want to reiterate, I think that's great that we had the Regional Small Business Relief Grant Program and looking through the list of those we awarded to. Good job, guys. I think that was well-deserved and it gave them a good boost to help them out during this time. But then secondly, I was with the mayor when we were at the ribbon cutting at Living History Farms, and one does forget that right here in Urbandale, we have a gym in the Living History Farms out there. That's a great, it's a great facility, great living museum, and just the number of visitors they bring into our city every year. So they're to be applauded, and we continue to support them. So it was just nice being out there today.
All right, thank you, Dave. Matt.
Yes. First, just as a form thing, I realized that now being here in person and using this new system, it's very quiet in here, and I'm not sure if I like that. How we don't do the motions and things. It's just we kind of sit. Also, Adam, I'm just curious. Did you beat 80 when it came to Ks that you collected?
I'm sure he did.
I stopped counting at 70, so I can't say if I did or did not.
Oh.
But see, today hiking through Decorah, I think I racked up about 2 hours, so I could add to it.
That's the deadline, though.
The fast deadline.
It is.
Mine doesn't count.
So.
No, I only added. I will admit.
Your 80 win.
The mayor got 80 and I got 79.
No.
So,
okay.
So I'm happy to write a check to whoever the mayor, unless Adam can magically get 11 kilometers.
No,
I'll
then bow to the mayor on that one.
Okay. So very good. Bravo, I did sit in on it, and I apologize. I forgot my notes at my office, but I can say that they have been reassessing. They still don't know the entire fiscal impact from hotel motel when it comes to community arts and culture. They are looking at how to, we got a lot of presentations about how many have been surviving through this process and they have been struggling. A lot of our partners that we fund through the 2080 agreements. And then Bravo itself, again, I don't have the exact number off the top of my head. I unfortunately forgot it, but it was several hundreds of thousands was their budget hole at this point in time. So they're working on trying to figure out how to make that balance. Some are from staff perspective, they're taking furloughs. They are doing everything they can to try to keep the the ship afloat and make sure that they're funding the cultural partners we have in our communities. And then finally, I do say I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we are moving forward with it. But I want to thank the mayor and then all the city council I have so far committed to going to the forum next week on the 25th. I think that will be a very important time for us to hear from our community, hear from the people that have why these protests and these issues are occurring, and have an understanding, because oftentimes the reason that these are occurring is because they lack the ability to talk to authority. They think that they don't have the power to make a change, and us taking some time and just to listen, I think is a fantastic first step. And I thank you and applaud everybody for doing so, and I look forward to listening to it next week.
Thank you, Matt. And I'll ask you to write a check for $50 each to UCAN and to the Urbandale Food Pantry.
That sounds like a wonderful donation.
All right.
Happy to do so.
All right, thanks. Ron.
Nothing. I'd like to thank staff for all the changes here in the chambers. It's pretty substantial. I did notice that it's difficult sometimes to understand people with the mask, so maybe next time we can get rid of the mask since we're far enough away and have sneeze guards up and everything else. I defer to Nicole. I found in the first in-person deposition, it took about 10 minutes for the court reporter to yell at us all to take our masks off because she was going nuts, so I passed that along. But anyway, I do commend the city. I think you guys have done a phenomenal job dealing with all this, and very, very unfortunately, I think we're going to be dealing with it for a long time in the future. So,
yep, thank you. All right, thanks, Ron. Bridget.
I'm going to say a little more than Matt, I guess. So this is what's been going on in our country has been weighing on me heavily over the last several weeks. Since George Floyd's death in Minneapolis. And I'm very proud of our police department. I think we do a very good job. I'm very proud of our accreditation. And, you know, the fact that we're going through it right now, I think is great. But as the late Senator Paul Wellstone said, we all do better when we all do better. And I just feel like what the Reverend said at the beginning, I really think it's important that we take a look at setting up a citizens review panel and other related items, because I think we can be a leader in the Metro based on the strong foundation that we have in our police department, and we can lead on this issue. We don't need to wait for others to make their decision or wait until something happens. I grew up in Iowa City, and we've had a police review board, as the Reverend said, since the 90s, I think, and it came out of something bad that happened with the police. And I think we can be out in the sunlight with this and not have to have something happen before we, set up the system. And in this no way takes away from our police department, which I think is top notch. But we have good cops, we have good community relations. But we have to ask ourselves, our minority residents, do they feel the same way? And I think next week, hopefully we can start drilling down into those questions. I've been doing quite a bit of volunteering, delivering meals for UCAN with my daughter. So I've had a chance to talk to Laura a lot at UCAN, and, some anecdotal things that she said to me about, after the incident at Merle Hay Mall, like some of the Burmese and Sudanese families didn't show up the next day when they were doing the food distribution because they were afraid. They don't really understand you know, not only is there the racial issues, but there's also the cultural issues that they don't understand. So that's my 2 cents, but I just feel like we can be better than we already are. And so I don't want anyone to misinterpret what I'm saying as negative towards our police department. I think we can just be better. So that's what I got right now.
Okay, thank you, Bridget. Again, as we've alluded to, and again, we'll get more information out here very shortly, but there will be a forum I think we've landed on next Thursday at 6 o'clock at the Urbandale High School PAC to allow for proper distancing, and so we can have the council on the stage and distance properly. And you know, the intent would be is that I'll open up the forum, and it's going to be loosely moderated. We're just going to remind folks on, you know, time limits and on adhering to character counts, and so we can keep things positive and respectful to everyone involved. And that you know, we'll start then and have a brief overview, I think, with the chief, and have some discussion as far as where we are, kind of a you know, kind of a reset as far as where we are currently, and then an open up and we can listen. And so certainly no decisions are going to be made, but I think also, as Matt said, I think we can listen, and I applaud the fact that we're, I think, probably one of the first communities really just to have a listening forum, just to have it
I think so.
to listen to folks, so, and listen to all perspectives. So
What are we doing, and maybe we haven't even got this far yet, to get the word out?
well, we're working on that right now. I'm sure AJ and Kurt and Derek have been, I don't know exactly, but AJ, you want to kind of fill us in on that?
Yep. Sorry. Now that we've got confirmation that everybody's going to be there, can make it on their calendar, we'll be pushing out on social media, and we'll be using the regular media as well. And just as the mayor mentioned, it's a listening opportunity for the members of the Urbandale City Council to listen to their community concerning the items around race. And then we'll have the time, location, you know, date, time, and location. And as Mayor said, we'll have it at the Performing Arts Center. The school was gracious enough to allow us to use that facility. It's large enough that we can accommodate social distancing as best as possible. So those are the venues that we have through the traditional media and through our social media websites. So, you know, it's a relatively short time period to get that information out. Over a weekend, you're in right before the holiday weekend of the 4th of July. So, you know, we can't choose the timing as much as our venue to get things out. So we will use everything that we can, that we have available, to let people know that the event's taking place.
All right. Are we going to publicize that it's, I mean, race is a big picture, and I think that, I think this is a great idea, but I don't know that I want to spend 3 hours hearing from people in Des Moines and nobody from Urbandale. You know, I'd kind of like it to focus on Urbandale issues, and you know, I don't know how we can do that, but you know, I have some concerns that this will be taken over by people who see it as a media opportunity for the whole region and not just Urbandale.
Part of our discussion at a staff level when we were looking to put this together was, you know, if the emphasis is on our community, that's what we'll place out. You know, and however we can do it, and we'll figure the way, is that for our residents. And we'll emphasize the residents of Urbandale, because as the mayor and I and Matt have spoken earlier about this, is that one of the things we looked at is that as you look at changes, any changes that the council wishes to make now or into the future, we always, at the staff level, we always thought, focus on the geographic boundaries of Urbandale for the things that you can affect. Now, the discussion can be obviously much greater, and other people may glitch onto it and have their community discussions, or the discussions get publicized and it gets pushed out there and other ideas may get generated. But, you know, from a staff perspective, we're somewhat focusing on what is it that our city council can affect. And really, that's a place to start. And if you have a place to start, then it could grow exponentially from other communities, what have you. And again, we were somewhat selfish and focused on us, is that the conversations with you folks and your constituents, your residents. And that's where that conversation should start. So we'll do our best to try to emphasize that. We also thought procedurally is that much like a council meeting or a lunch and learn, if someone's participating, I think it's appropriate that a name and address be given. So if there's a follow-up to that individual that wants to have more information or to be included or something, you have that background, but it's also a confirmation that you are an Urbandale resident. Again, it's not meant to be to exclude people, but it's also meant to recognize the focus of your discussion and the area that you can affect and the people that you represent. And again, if that springs into other conversations in other communities, maybe it's a model. You know, who knows? But at the same time, we've talked internally. Our suggestion is don't take too big of an apple right yet. You know, it's just that's a pretty big bite, and you want to make sure that you do it, that you're effective in how you move it forward. So,
and my plan has been moderating is to kind of gauge how many people we have there and you know, adjust the timing for comments appropriately. I mean, I think, you know, if you have 100 people that want to speak, I'm going to say you have 2 minutes, or you know, if you have 30 or 40 people there or 50 people there, you say up to 5 minutes. So, you know, I'll kind of gauge what kind of attendance we have and kind of gauge a time limit that we're going to announce when we get going, and ask people to respect that. So.
Well, based on the emails we've all gotten and other things in the community, I expect it'll probably be fairly well attended.
I think so too.
For
all right,
Bob, but just for clarification and my understanding from what AJ said earlier, our role that evening is to listen. We don't have solutions, or we don't offer solutions. We don't give direction. Exactly.
No.
I just want to know the posture is to listen, but not necessarily answer or give answers.
Well, yeah, I think, Dave, primarily is to listen. I think, you know, there may be some questions. And again, that's why, you know, if there are questions about city policies or what we do, I know we're going to have the chief there and some other folks there. We can certainly answer questions if there are, but I think the primary focus is for people to state their points and to petition their government. And we can listen, but we're not going to be making any decisions that night, but we can certainly get information and we can follow up with people on questions, and but mainly, just to listen.
You and I discussed earlier this afternoon the possibility of having a copy at the doors, a handout as they come in the room, a copy of the chief's letter as he posted on the police website, or even a copy of the law enforcement rule. I think he cited policy procedure number 9, for example. It might be good to have what is the current policy and educate, people can become educated. Because quite frankly, until I read through all of the policy, there's stuff in there that I didn't know that we're already doing. And I'm just wondering what kind of an education step we might want to take to have that information available.
Right. I've spoken to AJ about that, Dave, and I think we'll have some background information. But again, and the chief is going to start off with some comments. But I think this is going to be more of I envision this being a broader discussion than just policing issues. I envision this as a discussion of race in general as well. And
okay,
you know, so I think policing may be part of it. That's certainly been something that folks have expressed. But you know, I also envision this as a broader discussion of race in Urbandale.
Okay.
So.
Mayor, did you have Adams give his remarks?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Adam, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to neglect you.
Well, it was a great discussion and wanted to hear about next Thursday night. So looking forward to that. But also want to give it congrats to Aaron and Curtis on the small business grant program, because I know I got Friday night emails, Saturday night emails, Sunday night emails. So it was a long process to work through for them, and they fought to get all 38 names on the list. And so want to thank them for the work they did to strengthen our business community in Urbandale.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Adam. Enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Will do.
All right, with that, I'll ask for a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Matt, it's your chance to make a lot of noise, and
I know,
I could barely hear you.
I know, I lost it, because I was trying to activate this again, then anyway, yeah. It's just quieter. It's fine.